What up, everybody? This is Chef Jack Harris at the Talk Team Podcast.
This is Jade with the Jessica Northrop team from Denver, Colorado, and you are listening to the Real Talk Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Real Talk Podcast. Today I'm beyond stoked to have one of my favorite people join us at Compass. Brian Renzenbrink is a software engineer by trade and early engineer at Compass that now leads our infrastructure automation team. At Compass, he's responsible for technical infrastructure projects that build our internal flywheel to make our product and engineering better. Brian is a graduate from upstate New York, a transplant from Cincinnati, Ohio, and desperately trying to retain his youth playing in the various soccer leagues that he's in every week and going to live shows. Brian is known as a role model at Compass and the young Ethan Hawke lookalike. Brian is proud to say he is both a big in little at Big Brothers Big Sisters, a national mentorship charity program. Please follow him at BrenzenB, that's BRENZB, on Instagram. And I would just like to say I'm very thankful and happy that you're here today.
Thank you for the introduction. Little flowery words, and one of my least favorite compliments in there. So I appreciate that.
It comes up, and the more you grow your facial hair, I think the more the resemblance.
I'm trying to hide it with the facial hair and the glasses, like less
what are you
face.
trying to hide? You gotta show that great face of yours, man.
We'll work on it.
Anyways, my first impression of Brian was, who is this soccer bro? This was 5 years ago. I actually saw you in the elevator probably after your interview. And I, in my head, it's the first time working with engineers coming from a real estate, just a traditional real estate firm. Everybody wore suits and ties and jackets, and here's Brian coming in shorts, shirt, a book bag, I think some soccer shoes, probably stuffed somewhere outside of his book bag. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, who is this soccer bro? But fast forward 5 years later, happy to say, you're one of my closest friends and colleagues at Compass.
Happy to say it's pretty mutual. It's been a really fun 5.5 years. Actually, my start at Compass was one of my favorite kind of stories because the interview was really hard here. I really didn't think I got the job. I got in multiple arguments during the interview process.
Oh my goodness.
Which made me really want the job more. I was like, oh man, who's this Ugo guy? He's great.
Oh, that's great.
He's wrong about that one thing, but other than that, it was great. And then I got to meet a bunch of people. We were really small. I think we were counting the agents, 30 people in total.
Yeah. How many engineers were there? Maybe half?
Six.
Okay.
No, we were only 6 engineers at the time. We had 4 product people at the time. I remember joining at that time. We didn't really have a division of labor. Everyone's just you're doing whatever needs doing.
Right.
Which is one of the really big changes. I mean, it's been 5.5 years. We've grown. We're a startup in adolescence right now. We're trying to be more mature. And as we've grown, you see specialization, the hallmark of civilization. Your team has become specialized in who you target, what you target, the roles within the team. Engineering and product teams are dramatically more specialized. I'll get yelled at if I do something that's outside the scope of my job because that's something someone else should be doing so that they can learn it, so that we can all grow. They're like, oh, you already know how to do that. There's no benefit to you doing that anymore.
It's like high school football, in high school everybody plays every position. You play defense and offense and special teams. But now it's you go to the NFL, so you're specialists.
Yeah. You don't get to be a star anymore.
Wide receiver ain't playing corner.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
It's nice, you get that depth when you get the chance to focus on doing one thing really, really well above doing everything else. But this is why you end up needing more people. This is why an agent team needs support staff. This is why an engineering team needs product managers and designers, because honestly, you couldn't trust me to design the website. You remember what it used to look like.
Speaking of needs, you're hiring right now. So who are you looking for as a I guess you're a manager or a team leader? What type of people are you hiring? And what are you looking for? What do you look for in a hire?
So within my organization, we are hiring both senior engineers and engineering managers like myself. We're looking for really practiced engineering managers, people that can come into a team that already has strong engineers and help provide them with feedback and input so that they know that they're moving in the right direction. We trust everyone to build excellent product, to do good work, but the hard part that management comes with is making sure that people are building in the right direction. For the engineers, what we're really looking for in this technical infrastructure role is the idea that we want to find someone that understands their clients. And in our case, our clients are our partners. They're the other engineers in product and engineering. They're product team members. We're building tools for them. And it's really nice. It's a short feedback loop, but it's also really hard because you don't get the same level of support you would have if you had a agent-facing product. So we're looking for people that are usually coming from other startup backgrounds. Really great, actually, if those people...
What type of company specifically?
Type of company is if you've come from a startup that you were at and you grew from less than 20 people to more than 50, that's always like the best signal we have for someone that's going to be a great fit in engineering here, because you've had to wear a bunch of different hats and you understand how components work together, what the system architecture looks like, and you're probably pretty eager to just actually focus on doing one thing and doing one thing well.
Because you've already done that part of it.
Yeah, you've had to do the juggling, you're ready
So
to
you would
actually
judge someone's resume if they were coming from, let's just say, an Amazon or Google,
Yeah.
versus someone that came from a company that maybe is in its infant stages.
Yeah, so Amazon, Google, we pull a lot of people from, like Gang, Google, Amazon, Apple, Facebook,
Sure.
GAFA, sorry, not Gang. We pull a lot of people from the GAFA group.
This is news to me.
So say the acronym again?
GAFA.
GAFA,
G-A-F-A.
Google, Amazon, Facebook, Apple. Yeah.
Wow.
We pull a lot of engineers from there. And
What
we
about
get a lot of
Microsoft?
really good
No?
talent. Actually, we've started to get a lot now that we have the Seattle campus.
GAFAM.
GAFA. Yeah. It doesn't roll off the tongue quite the same way.
No,
Is this your
fine.
nickname or like
No, this
well
is-
known?
Known.
Oh,
It's known.
This is
news
in-
to
yeah,
me.
This is in recruiting. We pull a lot from there. I'm speaking more specifically to the technical infrastructure organization that I work in. That's where we're trying to pull people that have had more explicit startup experience. If you've worked at Amazon, Amazon is really focused on two pizza teams, very
Yeah.
isolated structures. It's great to have fully autonomous teams because you have full segmentation of ownership. But it also means that people that are in that ecosystem are really practiced in that ecosystem
Sure.
and don't have as much experience building something necessarily new. Same thing, like you'll see a lot great engineers working at Bloomberg, but it has a really specific ecosystem that people are trained and work in. So it's not necessarily a negative if you worked at any of these, but it definitely is a positive if you've worked at a growing startup and had to figure out a bunch of these challenges that we're facing right now. Google did these 20 years ago, so unless you've been working at Google for 20 years, in which case we're very happy. Please interview. Reach out to me, Brian at compass.com. I swear I
Say it
don't do
again,
referrals.
Brian at compass.com?
Brian at
One of
compass.com.
the perks of joining early is you get Brian at compass.com.
There are 22 Brians at Compass, and I'm never giving it up.
That's right. You will never.
Yeah, so
There's 100 francs at Compass now too. So it does pay to be in early.
Yeah.
So in terms of people you look for when you build out teams, would you hire, let's just say, someone that has a master's degree from school but has never really worked in the workforce in background in computer science?
Yeah, so what we'll hire within product and engineering are almost always targeted towards either really proven engineers, people that will blow you away the first time you meet them, or really high upside young candidates. So, and by young, I mean young in their career tenure, not necessarily young in age.
Sure.
But someone that's coming in, maybe they just got their master's, just got their PhD, they had one internship, and they do great in the interviews, they have this appetite and energy, they match really well with the Compass entrepreneurship principles. We're excited to hire. There's a bit of this ground. We've passed, over the last year, we passed what's called Dunbars number. It's like around 120,
Say it
130
again?
people. Dunbars number.
Dunbar's number.
So this is an old U.S. military term where they talked about after a certain point, you just can't know everyone in a group. And that point is around somewhere between 100 and 130
yeah,
people.
sure.
And this is why you have military organizations less than that. So
Sure.
that's where you need to break up your unit. And we had started to reach that point in product and engineering towards the end of last year. And we're now at a different point. So we really need to start focusing on how we do the organizational structure of engineering on its own. Because we passed this, we've hired, we've
many
doubled in
people.
size
Yeah.
in product engineering this year already, and we're still trying to grow more. It's been great.
How many are we at HQ?
At HQ, I think between product and engineering, we're right at like 302, 303 right now.
That's a very
Wow.
specific number. Thank you for telling us that.
Yeah, I'm fair.
Is it weird for you to be one of the first 6 or 7 engineers and now
So
be a part of 300?
it's a little weird in a couple ways. One, I used to know everyone, which is great. I'm
Yeah.
a really social guy, and I was like, hey,
Yeah.
now I'm just like, who?
You probably still know everyone.
No, I definitely,
Out of all
like,
people.
I'll count, and I'll be like, I don't know you, I don't know you. And I only got time to introduce myself to like 2 of you today. So. But the weirdest part, and this is actually a hard part, I had to get a talking to from our like head senior TPM in engineering, basically like my boss's boss. He's like, Brian, like people know who you are. You need to be more understanding that when you disagree publicly, it's a lot harsher than you think. Because I was criticizing an idea.
Sure.
And I disagreed very strongly with something. I mean, obviously ideas are separate from people. But he pulled me aside, he's like, he's terrified. You need to pick up on that. I was like, why is he terrified? Like, he's like, dude, you've been here for 5.5 years. Your name's on all the code base. Like,
Yeah, true.
People look up to you.
and that was the really weird part.
You're a
I was maybe
legend.
like 4 or 5 months ago. I was like, oh, I need to be understanding. Like, wow, I may not know everyone. Most of those people do know me. They're reading training materials I wrote,
Sure.
or watching talks, or reading through my code base. Yeah, so that's the hard and weird part that just comes with tenure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course, of course. Just to switch gears a little bit, a lot of our agents and listeners, whether you're a real estate broker listening to this or someone that just likes real estate or interested in our operation, I think the common misconception that those listeners have, I'm talking about non-engineers, is that they think that engineers are there to just build tools for Compass. Oh, he makes websites. Oh, this engineer probably just builds the marketing center for us. But I think that's a big misconception, right? Because on the back end, there are tools that run tools, there's code that build codes, and there's also security. And I'm not talking about IT security, but we're talking about DevOps.
Yeah.
So maybe you can explain a little bit about the common misconceptions people have with DevOps and what that exactly was, because that was your previous life at Compass.
Yeah, so when I joined Compass, we didn't have any specializations, but about 6 months in, I started focusing pretty heavily on what we were calling DevOps, which is a really overloaded term in the industry. It can mean a lot of different things. Development operations, though, pretty broad. What we were treating it as is building tools for the other engineers. We're kind of targeting this magic number of like 15% of your product and engineering workforce should be devoted to making your product and engineering workforce more efficient,
Sure.
healthier, happier. Healthier is more important than happiness. And so we would build out tools like making sure that if I find a bottleneck in the development speed for, say, someone working on Marketing Center, they might have a problem where, hey, I've made a bunch of changes, but I can't test them. It takes 3 days to test. I don't know how to validate all these different images. It's really hard as a human to look and spot the differences. You're like, well, we can work with you on that. We can build something to automate that level of testing for you, to remove that from your workflow so you can focus on what you're good at, coding the business logic of things that you do. And this is the same thing that they're doing for real estate agents. Like, they're focused on automating the things that aren't really core to your businesses. They're just getting in the way of putting you in front of the clients. Like,
Sure.
that's what you're good at. We want to get rid of everything that's not what you're good at. We can automate a ton of things. We'll get that out of the way. So my clients are the other product and engineering team members. Their clients are real estate agents, the finance team, the biz dev team. Separates out pretty well.
With regards to just the DevOps itself, do you want to talk about why our servers and data is located
So
throughout the United States?
I love talking about this stuff, but the one thing I want to do a little caveat, we are not called DevOps anymore.
Yes.
Again, this is an overloaded term, and we were hiring a bunch of people that it meant something different, and it led to a lot of arguments. So one of the great things you can do is just like throw your hands up, be like, fine, not DevOps anymore. So one of the things that we really focus on is infrastructure organization.
Sure.
So when you talk about what Compass is, people think Compass.com. This
Yeah,
is a web
it's
app.
a real estate website.
It's not a web app. We have 472 different applications that power Compass.com or the internal tools.
472.
472. Now, some of these are really small.
Just for the
goal-
listeners, what are the three more important systems that run it?
One of the ones that we've mentioned that we love, when we talk CRM,
Yeah.
this is one of the most beloved products. It's extremely well built. We were working with Contactually on it.
It's amazing
Did
tool.
great with them.
It's a game changer.
It's huge. This is actually under the hood 12 or 13 different applications. You have one thing for just managing your address book. You have one thing for sending information to your contacts. You have one thing for associating your address book with listings. You have one thing for collecting data that people have put into a comment on the website. The whole goal is to make all these small applications really small so that you can very clearly and easily identify what the contract, what does this do? Is it doing it correctly? Great. This is the model called microservices that really like Netflix pioneered for the industry, and we're actively trying to go. Amazon, Netflix, Google, everyone follows this model because it's a great way to structure engineering.
Interesting.
So we have 470 something applications, but that also is spread across, like for those of you that have some, past computing history, everything is cloud-based computing. We have somewhere between 600 and 1,000 servers at any given time across multiple different availability zones in different regions. Most of the running applications exist in a single region to make things faster for you guys, but we're backed up across 2 continents. So if, God forbid, an earthquake hits Virginia and takes out all the data centers there, we do war games. I can tell you, we'd be very sad. I'd be planning funerals. I'd be wearing black, but we'd have the website up and running in less than 24 hours again. Like, we're ready for this. And that's actually one of the goals for 2020 is to get that time down to like under 45 minutes. Disaster, everything gone. Let's recover in under 45 minutes.
Great. Wow.
Because every one of those 472 applications needs to have a specific number. How long does it take you to recover from breaking?
Outside of all the tools that we have, let's just say whether it's CRM that you just talked about or Marketing Center, what about, having, as an investor, when you look at Compass and you want to put money into it, how important is that part of the operation for us?
So I've been in a lot of startups over the course of the years, and I've been pretty close with some of my investors. I consider myself, and you should consider yourselves investors here in Compass as well. If you get paid in stock at any point, you're an investor. Sure. You own a piece of this company, and you should be thinking about it that way. And I will occasionally, you actually do get investor rights if you exercise 10 of your stock options. For any of the people that have those, you should do that just so you can write angry letters and they have to answer. It's pretty nice. But as
10% or 10 shares?
Once you own 10 shares of Compass stock, you have certain rights within the organization.
That's most of the brokers and most of the staff.
Yeah, almost like 10 shares is
That's
very, very high number.
Yeah.
Or a very, very high number of people on
That's
staff.
a very, very
brokers
nice
will have
number
it.
of people.
But there are things like when we were early on, Compass is a bit more secretive. I exercised 10 of my shares, and then I sent a very formal letter to David Snyder and said, I want to see the cap table, please.
Sure.
Tell me this. And you have to because I am an investor.
Right. You can't
Which is
deny
great.
it. It's not
Nice.
private information as a shareholder.
Yeah, so we're all, as employees that have been paid in stock, we are investors in this company as well. So one of the things that the bigger investors, like the VC investors, are looking for, they're always looking at this idea that it has to be worth at least a 10x return. So if you're going to be a VC investor, an angel investor, either case, the hit rate is usually you're going to succeed on 1 out of 10 startups. That's it. 10% bet. That's like you wouldn't make quadruple A baseball. Like you're a terrible hitter. That means that one that you hit needs to have enough upside to pay off for everything else. So the first thing you look at when you're investing in a company is, what am I looking to be paid for, and what's the ceiling here? The ceiling for Compass is, couple $100 billion. Like, I mean, maybe
A couple $100 billion in valuation, a couple $100 billion in sales.
valuation. Like if you talk about the real estate industry globally, like this is a
From a
really
global standpoint, sure.
really high ceiling. It might even be higher. Like this is if Compass continues to do just extremely
I think
well.
the U.S. itself is like $7 billion.
Yeah,
right, in
like
commissions.
it's absurd.
And just the residential commissions.
So you look at what the ceiling is. The ceiling is really high. And then you look at what is the lever that we can maneuver. So companies like Softbank or Founders Fund have very different ideas on what levers they can offer. Founders Fund gets in early because what they can do to provide a boost to their products, companies they've invested in, is introductions primarily. They want to set you up with another company that'll do something to streamline things for you. They'll get you a sweetheart deal with some
Founders Fund,
operations
for
utility.
those listeners, was what? They were the early investors of Facebook.
They were early in Facebook. They were early in, I want to say, Oscar Health
Oscar,
as
yeah,
well.
sure.
They were relatively early with us. And then SoftBank is obviously like the big VC that is very late stage.
And they only come in,
Yeah.
in the series.
Yeah, and their lever is they just pump so much money into you that you can remove your obstacles when you're in the rocket ship phase of your growth. Like, really
Basically,
keep
it
that.
eliminates the competition. That's what he did with Alibaba.
Yeah, eliminate some of the
Amazon and
competition by
Japan.
outspending them. But the big part is most companies, when you hit that rocket ship of growth, they talk about it. There's a point where you have to start caring. You're like, okay, we're running out of money. We have to slow down. We have to stop expansion. We have to stop certain investments just to get our revenue streams right. Because that rocket ship takes a lot of risk. You're like, but SoftBank invests in you so that you continue to take that risk going forward so you have an even higher return. Like that's their investment model. So when you look at both of them, the reason they're excited about Compass is really high possible ceiling. We have a very clear pitch.
Sure.
We have an industry that is almost universal, and Compass used to be Urban Compass. We used to actually not try and focus for a very short period of time on agents, and we pivoted. We realized we could build all these tools for the end consumers that would make them, more efficient, able to automate a bunch of what they do. People make the decision to buy a home 2.6 times in their life. No one's ever going to be comfortable with the two biggest financial decisions of their life
Never.
without an expert here.
Without,
But you know who would really get a lot of value out of tools, out of automation to streamline the process, make them more effective and efficient? Agents. They're hopefully doing this, between 10 and 100 times a year. And when they're doing that, you're looking at okay, there's a class of the workforce that we can work with, independent contractors. We can make them more efficient. Like the sales pitch to bring in agents is, we're going to make your lives easier, we're going to make you more money, we're going to make you better at your job. Would you like to work with us? Yeah, it's an easy sales pitch. That's really appealing to investors. And then the other parts are, how do we do integration? So one of the things, I was actually having a talk yesterday with one of the guys on my team about how Apple had such great success doing vertical integration.
Sure.
The fact that they could line up what their hardware is doing with what their software is doing meant they had full control over everything. They were really able to streamline their process, and it's been terrific for them. Compass, in the future, this is one of the things we're working heavily towards, is having horizontal integration for all of the utilities and tools that our consumer and agent base are going to want. This is, right now, it's like CRMs, it's listing search, it's marketing center, but there are 75 different other things that go into the act of purchasing a home. And we can streamline all those so that data from one impacts another. It'd be great if when you went to go fill out your closing documentation, it was just populated. This is all information you've given your real estate agent 37 times. You don't want to have to copy it or transpose it yourself.
Yeah.
Should be a button. Nothing about filling out that form takes advantage of your skill sets.
I mean, yeah,
So it's all
imagine just all being streamlined, right? From bridge loans to concierge, and then to marketing center, to search, to collections, and then to using the closing tool. I mean, from
There's
A to Z.
endless opportunities.
It's a virtuous cycle too, because as one tool gets better, the others get better. As the tools get better, we get more agents. As we get more agents, we get more inventory. As we get more inventory, the tools become better, we have more data. And then eventually we have enough data, we become the de facto source of truth for other real estate tech companies.
Sure.
Think of a company like Updater, is a startup here in town. They're actually right across
Right.
the street. Their job is, when people move, making sure that the move is seamless. Updater could absolutely be built on top of our APIs if we let them.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the end goals for engineering, is having Compass
Just
as a
like
platform.
how contextually just naturally integrated into our systems.
Yeah, and that's the really good
great
canonical example. I look so forward. That's my big fun technical challenge, is that day when someone's going to be using our APIs and it's just push button. Oh, you want to use our APIs? Hit this button. You'll have everything automatically set up for you. You'll be billed appropriately, and you'll build on top of us. And then Compass no longer has to worry about doing internal prototyping for stuff. You're we have 5 startups all using our APIs. We'll just snatch up the one that's doing the best job because they have really good talent in their office, and we'll bring them in, and it's such a really good way to have growth at the company.
Sure.
It's a big dream.
When you talk about just going back a little bit, valuation and how the way VC funds look at it is 1 out of 10. That's the benchmark, right?
Yeah.
WeWork and Softbank, having the same investor as us, probably has a little bit of disappointment in WeWork, and now kind of relying more on their big investments like Open Door and Compass.
Yeah.
What do you think is our difference between WeWork, and we talked a little bit about this last week, but WeWork also is a tech company technically, right? They do have tech. What makes you think that we won't be a WeWork?
Can I curse on your podcast?
Please.
Yeah, fuck Adam Newman. I'm sorry.
I loved it when he visited us.
He was great. Yeah, he visited the Compass office.
Presenter.
Yeah, but he's
Shoeless.
kind of like a cult leader. He's just in there, magnetic personality, and then 3 hours later, you're wait, none of, huh?
3 hours later, he's smoking weed.
Yeah, I was
on a
very,
plane.
very upset. So there's 2 things I want to call out that I think are really strong differences, and the reason I start with that statement about Adam is his level of responsibility towards his team, the people he supports, dramatically different. He talked this big game about wanting people to have access to more but responsibility for less, like changing the ownership model.
Sure.
But he still owned a ton of stuff.
Sure.
He was different. I remember a few years ago, I used to go out for drinks with Rob Reffkin fairly often when we were small, and this was like 3-4
Back in the
years
day.
ago. It was a while. Reffkin-
Drinks, pork night. What is it? Pork belly
Yeah,
night.
pork belly nights. He told me to my face. He's like, no, I don't have more than 2 drinks a night. Too many people's careers depend on me now. He just said, he's like, no, thank you.
I thought it was 1 drink now.
It might be down to 1. Like oh no, he's got 3 kids now, so like maybe he needs the second drink.
0.
But honestly, that's really great to hear. Like he does have a sense of responsibility to his employees.
Sure.
Like that scenario where his goals are not aligned with the goals of everyone else in this organization doesn't exist.
Sure.
So that part I feel really strongly about. I've been at some companies where you just didn't trust your leadership. This is not the place.
No.
Rob Reffkin is a great leader. Every other leader that we have, I trust. And
Good.
we've got a lot of different leaders in our organization that have just been great at driving things. They're carrying so much water, carrying weight for everyone that you don't even realize until
Yeah.
you talk.
Yeah.
But the big difference from a tech side, we talk about WeWork as a tech company.
Yeah.
WeWork as a tech company wasn't doing anything with its tech yet. Its tech promise was that we are going to build this huge inventory of clients. And these clients are all going to be small WeWorking spaces, are going to be taking advantage of WeWorking spaces. They're going to be using our software to book or schedule meeting rooms, to order snacks, blah, blah. And eventually we're going to have enough data to make really smart decisions. We're going to be able to recommend to people, here's how big an office you need. Here's how many meeting rooms we should put in an office of this size for this area. Here's what kind of snacks you should get. That's really useful information.
Very.
Like 10 years from now, they would need to be much bigger than they are currently to have a data set that is valuable at this
Right.
point. Compass's data set is already incredibly valuable. Like we have so much more of the inventory market, of the existing data for homes being sold. And a big part of this is, like there are MLSs. There have been MLSs in most major markets in America for 60 years.
40
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Decades.
yeah, I mean, they were doing them on paper back in the day.
Yeah.
So we've had those. So we started with a better standpoint. We have access to better data, and we're already able to make smart decisions about that data.
Sure.
So that's where you start to get the real ramp up speed. Like as soon as you hit that virtuous cycle, things get exciting. And we're already at that point as far as access to data and the ability to start using that access to data to make the data itself better. WeWork was years away. Like you weren't even sure they would ever have more than 1,000th of a percent, 1,000,000th of a percent of total data on how people interact in their office space. Like it's just almost impossible. So their tech offering didn't really do anything yet. They had a promise. They had potential, but the potential was so far away as to not really be tangible. And
Do you think
Compass,
that they'll survive the next 10 years?
yeah, I think they'll survive. I don't think they will thrive.
You don't think they'll reach that valuation that they had several months ago before they tried to go IPO?
I'm not sure they're gonna even stay as high as they currently are.
Speaking of the future, what about, just to wrap things up, because I know you're busy, what do you think will happen of our future in terms of valuation?
So
Growth.
I would be very surprised, and I'm just saying this as
Listen, this is just
someone's
you,
been.
not...
I'd be very surprised if we took another round of private funding.
Sure.
There's a lot of appetite.
Do we need that much more money?
We don't.
No.
No, we don't need that much more money. We're not focused on the really expensive part of expansion right now. The really expensive
Digging
part
in
of
deep.
expansion was physical offices in new cities. Like we wanted to build.
A lot of growing
Fix-
pains, new leases, construction.
We got better at doing
delays.
that.
Yeah.
Right now, our model for expansion is depth. Like we are getting more and more market share in the existing markets.
That's it. Digging
We're,
deep.
we're expanding a little bit in those cities. Like we'll branch out, like get this neighborhood, different offices. But the real place we're spending, these are all investments.
Sure.
We're not paying rent
Right.
as where our money goes.
Right.
So our costs are going to stay roughly level as far as growth cost, and our investment is all going into hiring. Like, and we're putting a ton of money, into product and engineering. That's why we've had so much hiring this year. With the idea that we're at this point where product and engineering has a large enough data set, they have enough stability, they have enough reliability within the platform that they build on, that we can start iterating and building quick. I know that you guys saw, we had our first AI-powered application maybe 2 months ago, and we have a ton. We want to have this ability to start dynamically surfacing
You talking about
useful
AI in
information.
our CRMs?
No, the first AI application is on the homepage. If you go to the homepage, The carousel at the bottom that you see, if you're a consumer, is going to be homes that are either things you've looked at or things that we think that customer
That
will
you
like.
want.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I
which
look at
is
that all
really
the time, actually.
It's such a small thing, but it should make your lives easier. Just like, hey, we're going to bring someone here. They're going to see every time they come to the homepage one new home they might like if they haven't made a decision
Or
yet.
something they
But
like.
one of the next things we're going to do is like, when do we think people are really focused on a single place?
Yeah.
Can we make suggestions to them? Can we tell you that, hey, your client was looking at this house for 3 hours, really actively? They were just scrolling through the
Scrolling
pictures.
through, highlighting. Or,
Maybe prioritize this one. Spend more time when you're going through the open house walkthrough with them
Yeah.
on this one. We know they like
That's
it.
good. That's good. Those hints, little hints.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and these are things that only make the experience better for agents, for consumers. We want to shorten the total time to find that home, to close on the home, to get everything done. So that's really, really big. Just to kind of see all these things start to go through has been great.
Got it. Just to wrap up, Danielle, do you have one question that you'd like to ask Brian, our special guest, before he leaves?
Ooh, I'm gonna hard-hitting questions. I guess just one question would be, your career at Compass has changed so significantly from when you first started to where you are now. And what about it now do you like so much? Do you like being a manager? How has it evolved? And
So I very much like being a manager. It's something I actually sought out. I kind of forced the issue, to
Oh,
be
nice.
perfectly honest. And the reason I
Good
forced
for
it
you.
is I wanted to prove to myself this idea of the philosophy behind the best way to do engineering. I'm a big believer, and there are a lot of us in the engineering organization that feel this way, in the inverted org chart, where management's job is to be a support structure. And this means that, when someone needs to get work done, you trust the people doing the work. I'm from Cincinnati, so my canonical example is Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble's been a company for 140 years. Their job, above all else, is to not screw up.
yeah,
And that's real different
They've
from
held that
Compass's.
position forever.
Yeah, and that's real different from what we're doing. Our job is to build as much as we can, and when you're trying to
Yeah.
build, you have to empower the people doing the building.
That's right.
Whether it's your product people, your engineers, your real estate agent, whoever's actually doing the work. So my job is to support a team of people, help them build work, make sure that they know what we're building toward. Leadership's job is to set really great North Stars, goals that we 95% get to, stretch us a little bit. We get buy-in from the team, but actual implementation details, how you're going to do this, should always be the people doing the work. They're closest to the problem. They're going to know better.
Right.
I wanted to test that argument. I really want to do this. And so that's why I forced the way into leadership, and I've got a great team right now. It's actually why I'm taking off a little early. I have to go see one of them give a talk in front of a bunch of different
Yes.
people.
I'm excited.
Yeah, Allison's great. She's genuinely doing great.
Excited. That's good.
So I really like my team right now. The parts that I enjoy the most are getting to see them really fly. Like when I look up and I ask hey, what can I help you guys with? And I'm quite a bit older than everyone on my team. And I say, what can I help you with? And they're like, we're good. We don't need you.
It's amazing.
you're like,
Great
cool.
feeling.
All right,
my
That's
kids
great.
are all
Yeah,
flying out.
I've done my job.
Baby bird's got to fly, right?
That's awesome. Well, listen, Brian, thank you for coming. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it, and I can't wait to hang out again in the very near future.
Yeah. Thanks for
Coming on.
having me.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.